Hello to all my audience. This is JCK and it is the 25th of July 2021. Things are moving very quickly all across the world, and this isn't a prediction video or anything like that. This is more of a practical type video that I think is very timely for me to do for you. I've got a lot of skills and a lot of knowledge, and I store it all up here, and I sometimes know a lot about all bits of things, okay? Jack of all trades, master of none. So one of those things is about being prepared in any sort of situation where you might need to be frugal for a little period of time, or you might need to be prepared for not having enough, or not having much food, or not having much money, and those sorts of things. So over the years, I've built up these skills to sort of know about something that's called PREP-STEADING and those sorts of things. I'm going to share a link for a channel that is really good for that sort of stuff. Because it's just myself and my daughter here, I haven't done a lot of that. Okay, if I was in a bigger family, I would be canning things, I would be storing lots of dry goods and things like that. I know I'll be okay because I've got more than enough food here, and I don't really need to go out for the next month or so. I have enough, okay? And I have all sorts of things. So I'm just doing this video so that you can get in your head some of the things that you need to consider purchasing in the next few days or so, or the next week, and just stocking up. Now, obviously, if there is going to be any sort of restrictions to accessing food and things like that, you are not going to go around eating like you normally would. You're not going to sit around eating chips and chocolate and eating. You're going to try to eat nourishing food so that you're not eating too often every day. It's just so that you can get by during the time when these things are happening, okay? And then after that, you should be okay. But you've got to consider things like camping or hiking supply places. So there's a lot of those things online where you can get dried goods, freeze-dried goods, those sorts of things. If you are considering that maybe there might be a power outage or something like that in your area, because a lot of people are predicting those sorts of things if EBS happens, etc. Those sorts of supply places are good, because then all you need is some water, you've got the freeze-dried goods, and you can use that for a little period of time if the power is out. Okay, so obviously number one, you need a good supply of water. If you've got water purification tablets, that might be an option, but I would probably just buy the large sort of spring water from the store, maybe 10-litre ones, not separate bottles, but if you can buy the big ones, because if you don't have a Kangen machine, I've got a Kangen machine. Now that runs on electricity. I don't have a generator here. If the electricity is out at all, I'm going to have another supply of water. I'm not going to drink the tap water. I'm going to have something like spring water. It's not ideal, I know, and a lot of you are going to say, but it's stored in plastic. This is for emergencies. It doesn't matter, okay? Or you can just dry fast and not drink anything. How's that? So that's something you've got to consider. The other sort of things is you want to have some kind of nutrition and not just eat junk or ramen noodles while you're, okay? So that would be last resort, that sort of thing. We call them 2-minute noodles in Australia. Overseas, they call them ramen noodles or instant noodles. Not very nutritious, okay? That's last resort. That's just there in case, okay? But you're going to I'm going to show you some things to consider. Obvious dry goods would be flour, dried beans, tinned things, okay, as well as the dried goods. A lot of that stuff requires obviously cooking. Rice as well. I always have, I haven't put this in a glass jar, but I always have like a big bag of rice, because that's one thing my daughter definitely eats, is rice. And you can make lots of things out of that rice, okay? So you could actually make a soup out of it, like a congee or something like that. If you wanted to, if there's leftover rice, you could mix it with eggs and make something else. There's all sorts of things you can do with rice, okay? And rice is, it's not ideal in terms of the carbohydrates and the, but it's just, you know, it's a good staple to have lying around. One thing you can serve with rice which will help you make nutritious, and something that you could probably either make yourself. I usually make it. I haven't, because there's only me that's going to eat it, so I just bought some kimchi. Okay, so kimchi or sauerkraut, it's good for your stomach. If you're going long periods without decent nutrition, this is your probiotics. It's also a good way to use up cabbage, which is very, very cheap. So preserving cabbage in any way is a good option. Also, cabbage is low in oxalates. So if you've got issues with vegetables and things like that, cabbage is actually low in oxalates than other vegetables. So having kimchi is really good with rice. It's delicious and it's very nutritious. And you'll find that if you've got digestive issues, when you eat it, it actually feels really good. It feels good in your stomach, like it's not going to hurt. If you usually feel bloated, you'll feel that you're less bloated with kimchi. So kimchi or sauerkraut is a great thing. Think about all the people in the past that used to do this all the time. They used to do a lot of canning, like World War II, all of those sorts of things. They would have had a lot of sauerkraut. It would have been a staple for those people. Honey is very important as well. So raw honey, if you can find raw organic honey, that's good for especially little kids. Just a good carbohydrate for them for energy, etc. And it's a good sweetener as well. You could buy something like jaggery. Jaggery is extremely nutritious. I've just purchased some organic jaggery. Jaggery is a palmita. I think it's called a palmita sugar or something like that. And they use it in Ayurvedic medicines and things like that. So I'm going to make that into something when I get it. Another option. Okay, so here's the basic. I'll just get this out of the way. Look how much tuna I've got. My daughter eats rice and tuna all the time. Okay, so that's always having something like that in stock in your cupboard is great. And she'll just eat that with seaweed, and you can buy dried seaweed, and that gives a little bit of nutrition. That's something that you need to think of. Another thing that most kids eat is potatoes. If you're going to store fresh potatoes, there's a way to store them, so just look that up. What they used to do in the old days was they would actually store them in dirt, okay, to keep them over long periods of time. If there was a cold, like a winter or something, and or if the potatoes were going to go rotten, they would store them like that. But we've got the option of dried potatoes, or you can actually buy frozen mashed potato. It's just potatoes, and I think it might have a little bit of milk in it and butter and salt, and that's it, and it's frozen. So you can do that. But potatoes is something that a lot of children eat, and adults. She'll go to the nutritious stuff soon. Let me talk about important things like coffee. Obviously, freeze-dried coffee obviously is one of the best inventions in the 20th century. But if you want, let's say you don't have, so you've only got an electric kettle. Can you sort of see that, my electric kettle? Some countries don't have electric kettles because of the voltage. I think in America they don't sell them. I'm not quite sure. The voltage needs to be quite high, and in Australia we do have a high voltage here. So I have this as a backup. So my Italian coffee thing. So what you do is you fill up water in the bottom. Obviously you need special type of coffee for that. So it has to be ground for these machines. And that will store in the fridge. So you put your coffee in here and then water in the bottom, and then you put it on heat. Now that takes me to your cooking, your heating sort of things that you have. If you only have electricity in your house, so I've got a convection, is it convection? I can't remember what they're called. There's the stovetop that has, it's just electric, right? So I've got one of, oops, I can't remember what they're called. What are they called? Those. I've only got that and electric, so because I'm in an apartment, obviously they don't want to have gas here, in case the whole place blows up. So I do have a gas camping cooker, a stovetop thing. It's brand new. I never used it. I didn't go camping. I just had it. Okay, so I would use that outside and heat up water if I need to, or boil things and cook things, etc. Okay, so have those options. You could also buy things like coffee bags and stuff like that. So have that as a backup if your electricity is not working for a little period of time. I would say if you live in the Western world, your electricity is not going to go down for more than three days. Okay, somebody assured me in my Telegram group that her and husband and his friends, they all worked on the grids and electricity companies, and they said that it's not going to happen. They've got so much backup that they don't intend for that to happen for long periods of time. Obviously flour is is important. You can make something called hardtack with it, or ship's biscuit, which is a very basic bread that they used to carry on the ships, and it's just flour and water cooked and dried. And that's the whole thing, is things that are going to store for a long time need to be dry, no water, otherwise it will be moldy. Oil also and things like that tend to go rancid, so things need to, for it to stay a long time, need to have no water content in them. That takes me to some dry stuff, which is bone broth, and you can do, that's very nutritious. So if you're a vegan, obviously you're not going to have bone broth. So I've got a dried version of this beef bone broth. I don't really like this brand. It's organic and all of that, but beef broth stinks. Okay, that's just my opinion. It smells bad, but I do use it in cooking sometimes. Okay, but I've got a dried version in case my jar of bone broth runs out, and that's a really concentrated bone broth, and it's great. You know, like you could literally fast and just have that and you'll be fine. It's got electrolytes in it, it's got all sorts of things. That takes me to electrolytes, which I do have a, oh, maybe it's not here. Oh, yes, it is. So I bought online from a bulk nutrition place an electrolyte blend. You can make electrolytes yourself from just potassium chloride, which is not prepared for this. Hang on a second, if I can grab it. Okay, so you've got your normal sodium chloride, which is salt, so maybe a pink sea salt or Celtic sea salt, so good salt. So this is got potassium chloride in it. It's a type of salt and it's cheap. It's usually the heart salt type things, the ones that they say is good for your heart. It's got potassium in it. Okay, potassium comes from a lot of plants and things like that. So if you're not eating a lot of plants, then obviously you need potassium. So if you're going to fast, or if you feel like you're dehydrated and stuff, just have this on hand. So you need magnesium. So usually what you would do, if you just look up snake juice from Cole Robertson, Snake Diet, he has the quantities that you need to make it yourself, or you can just buy this. Now, you've got to make sure your electrolyte blend has no aspartame in it, okay, or aspartame, however you want to pronounce it. No sugar, no aspartame, no sucralose. This is unflavored. It's just magnesium, potassium, and salt. It does have calcium. This one does have calcium in it as well. Okay, so don't know why, but it does. Don't really need it, but you know, there's a one you can make yourself, right? Okay, so you got that. Think about dried onion powder, dried garlic powder, those sorts of things. Anything that's dried is good. Dried herbs, coconut milk is a good thing. This happens to be coconut whipping cream. I don't know why I have that. Maybe I was going to make a dessert for my daughter with it, but that's something. Having tomato, like a passata or tomato-based sauce, that you can make stews out of that and just put that in a slow cooker. Milk. So here's the basics: milk and egg. You can buy powdered coconut milk if you don't have dairy. Goat's milk is also good for those who don't tolerate cow's milk. Okay, that I do believe, I'm not quite sure. I mean, goat's milk is an A2 type of protein, so usually it's the protein, not lactose, that's the problem for people. Personally, goats to me stink, and I don't really like goat milk, but I got it there just in case my daughter wanted something. I also bought egg protein powder, which is basically egg whites, okay? Just egg whites. You can get egg powder, powdered egg, and they use that in camping and stuff like that to make, or in campsites to make scrambled eggs. It's a last resort. I happen to have a recipe from Maria Emmerich, who makes a type of bread just out of egg whites and egg protein powder, and it's low fat, zero carb or low carb, and it's just eggs, okay? And it's a good way if you're having low carbs, okay? Nutritional yeast is another thing to have on hand. The reason why is nutritional yeast, it tastes like cheese, kind of. It's a savoury taste. Nothing tastes like cheese other than cheese. But nutritional yeast is B12 vitamins, okay? And even just taking this as a supplement is great for you. But you can use that to flavour things, but also, here's an option. If you love cheese, but you can't get it, okay, and you really like it, you can actually make cheese out of all sorts of things. So this might be a time for you to go and look up vegan cheese recipes. One of the ingredients would be, and I always keep seeds in stock, so sunflower seeds, milled and blended with garlic or garlic powder, lemon juice, and I think nutritional yeast and those sorts of things. You can make a cheese out of that, believe it or not. Now, you don't have to think, it's not like real cheese, but it's like a savoury spread, okay? Things like flaxseed, which I haven't pulled out of the cupboard. Flaxseed and chia seeds are excellent because they act like eggs. So if you do run out of eggs and you want to make something that you need to bind, let me see if I can grab my flaxseed. So I know where my flaxseed is. It's in the fridge because I always store, oh, that's not flaxseed. Okay. I usually store flaxseed, or in Australia they call them linseed, in the fridge, but just grab, when you grind them up and put them with warm water, it becomes like an eggy consistency and it helps to bind things. And you could use all these seeds and make a seed bread or a seed crisp bread. And it's just a bunch of seeds mixed with psyllium, which I have here. Just some psyllium husks. You just blend a bit of that and that with water, and that will bind and it will make a dough out of the seeds, and you just cook them in the oven, and that's like your crisp bread. So these are all sorts of things that have lots of nutrition in them, and you're still going to do great. One more thing, this is not very nutritious, but keeping packets of bread mix. I just got this because my daughter has a fondness for brioche. I don't know, French background, made French past life. But I bought it for a project for her and I to do where we can bake bread. We haven't done it yet because I don't really like her eating it too often. But also just having something like a pancake thing, and all you need is milk. Now, you could use water with the milk powder or real milk, but that will make pancakes for the kids. You got that with honey and fruit and whatever. You could do all sorts of things. Having obviously frozen meat, if you eat meat, things like frozen vegetables as well, but checking out the freeze-dried places, they actually have freeze-dried meat, real meat, freeze-dried, all the moisture taken out, and all you have to do is add boiling water, and then you're adding some nutrition to your food. I don't want to hear people complaining about me talking about eating meat. It's not the time, okay, to complain about people eating meat. you're talking about, you know, we're basically talking about if you've got a zombie apocalypse, are you going to seriously just go eat some grass? No. But if you do eat grass, just kidding. Now, here is something to keep on hand that I thought about. And I always think about this because sometimes my daughter refuses to eat vegetables, okay? Or she'll only eat avocado, or she'll only eat, you know, one type of thing. If you are really concerned, then make sure you have something like this, which is this is Touchstone Essentials, and I've got the super green juice. This is actually very pleasant to eat, and it's got so much nutrition in it. It's got the barley grass juice powder, alfalfa grass, oat grass. It's got spirulina, chlorella. You know, we're talking about something that's very nutritious. It's got probiotics in it, natural probiotics. It's got different types of mushrooms in there, cranberries, goji berries, all sorts of things. Okay, there's so many new ingredients in that, and one scoop, and you add that and make that, whether you blend it and the electricity is working and you've got a blender, or you just shake it in the shaker, that will give you some nutrition. Okay, so I hope that's all helped. I think that's all I've got to say. But just look, the reason why I'm doing this video is because the whole purpose for this time period is to make sure that you're not afraid. Okay, you need to stop vibrating at that fear level, and it really does affect everything around you. Just being around people who are afraid or low vibing, I notice that when I leave their company, negative things happen around me. But when I'm away from that, my energy is protected, and I'm able to focus on higher vibration. If I know I've got food in the cupboard, okay, and I'm not afraid and I'm prepared, then that helps to reduce that fear dramatically. And then you can literally not have to be afraid of going out to buy food and get in trouble for not wearing a mask and all sorts of things, okay? So that's why this video is very important. And just make sure that you're prepared. That's all you have to do, is just make sure you're prepared. You're not going to die if you only eat once a day. That's another thing. Have a look at all of these things, okay? Have a look at PREP-STEADING and things like that, and I will share it in the description below, okay? I love you all. Just take care of yourselves.